ready for a wild and wonky journey? Okay, I've got some Silver Lake Lodge printables from Studio Calico, some Inner Creative Bubble items, and some other random printables, and of course, a collection of items from Studio Calico and Ali Edwards Kits. So you can see I've got a bunch of photos this week. It's a pretty wild adventure for me. I really didn't have a plan. I know I probably say that every week, and I really don't have a plan, but this particular week is a little bit crazy because I am committed to working with the Silver Lake Lodge printables. And the color palette, primary colors, pretty much. Bright, grid-like, really kind of modern designs, and I love it. Love it, love it, love it. But it's a challenge, but I was up for it. So if you haven't taken a look at the Silver Lake Lodge printables, give it a whirl. I think it's just perfect for summertime layouts. So first up, you see I'm just going to trim up these cards. I tend to only print the 3x4 in these printable collections because I know I probably am not going to use the 4x6. Okay, so just going to kind of see how I might want to lay out or include some of these bold printable cards. That large leaf is spectacular. But before I do that, I am going to trim my journaling card. I did that in advance and then just justified the paragraph so it looks neat and tidy. And I know I'm going to have that placed in the top left-hand corner. And that is about all that I know. So next up for me, just to kind of see what's next, I go ahead and use the slightly rounded edges of this grid card. I've had a collection of these grid cards for some time, and sometimes it's just a nice break from a solid white background. So I'm going to use that for the single 4x6 photo, which certainly a little bit smaller than that, probably more like a 3x5 photo that I'm going to incorporate into this week's spread. I've also got a couple of photos that I have trimmed down, and they're more like a 2x3. And one set of the 2x3 photos I'm going to leave on a 4x6 card, and then the other you see that I'm working with now, I've actually cut in half. And that is a photo of my eldest son driving me for the first time now that he has his permit. It was blowing my mind. Blowing my mind. I nearly peed in my pants. I don't even have words for what that experience was like. He also is taking a driving class this week, and his instructor came by and they went out on the local roads, and so he encouraged us to let him get behind the wheel with us as well. Oh, it's just too much for my heart. I'm just so not ready for all of this. So anyway, you see me struggling a bit to find just the right 3x4 card to use with this kind of mini 2x3 photograph. And so in the end, I'm going to go back to the NA Creative Bubble printables. I've used these several times. I like the kind of simplistic format, and this is, I think, the travel log. And it's just really nice and simple, which I think is useful for this week's spread, particularly because it's so busy with both photographs and then the Silver Lake Lodge printables as well. I'm also going to play around and incorporate a few of these grid 3x4 cards. I used them last week on week 25's layout, and those are also from Studio Calico or Inner Creative Bubble. You know, my mind gets all jumbled. It's like scrambled eggs in my head. So check last week's week 25, and I think that'll give you a clear sense of the additional cards that I'm using. Okay, so I seem to be making a bit of progress, and I am going to cut up some of these labels from one of the Studio Calico collections as well, and going to trim a few of these labels down and see if I can find a good way to incorporate them into the spread, and not really being too mindful about the colors. This week it is not at all about any cohesive color palette. I mean, it's literally all over the place. And at a certain point, what I decided was that it was just going to be wild and crazy, right? I mean, it wasn't going to be a layout that was made cohesive by a color palette, but rather it would be made, if this is even possible, cohesive by the wonkiness and the lack of, I don't know, colors. You know, usually I'll find one or two colors that I kind of pull together, but not this week. Okay, the other thing I thought I'd do is pull out a collection of older stamps. Those are from largely Studio Calico stamps that I probably have accumulated over the last 5+ years. So I pull a few of those out. I didn't show you all of my stamping because I did a whole bunch of random stamping, and some worked, some didn't. But I'm going to trim down some of the ones that I think I might want to play with. And I stamped on both white cardstock and on vellum as well. And in particular, there was an old collection that was all about records and music playlists and iPods. So that is pretty old, right? And I thought that that would be a perfect stamp for a few of the photographs with the boys hanging out at the record shop with us. So I'm going to go with this one stamp that says today's playlist that I placed on vellum, and just quickly going to attach that with a little bit with my tiny attacher. Next up, I have another round stamp that I placed on vellum as well, and I'm going to attach that to this photo of my son leaning against the telephone pole with the lovely mural as the backdrop. Thought that might be kind of funky and neat. I have a couple other items that I stamped. You are here. I really wanted to actually add this you are here as an element, but it was just a little bit too large for any one of the photographs. I'll play around with it for a bit, but in the end, it doesn't make the cut into this week's spread. All right, so unlike most weeks where I right off the bat adhere the photographs to the 3x4 cards, that didn't happen this week. I was a little bit more tentative because of the kind of lack of cohesion in terms of color palette, because I was playing with these bold primary colors and all the photographs. I waited on adhering the photos to the cards. So I am going to attach, let's see, a couple of these printables. This is from an older Scraptastic printable that I still had in my collection. One says today, and that little, is that a hexagon? I attached that to the bottom of a birthday pool party photo. And then there's another yellow hexagon that is, I'm sure y'all will correct me if it's not a hexagon. But the yellow one I'm going to attach to the photo of the boys playing on the Jungle Gym, and it says Sunday. So those two I'm going to use. And I suppose I was imagining that that would create a little bit of symmetry in terms of the shape and style of the printable, but not, of course, in terms of color. And I'm going to adhere that photograph to the 3x4 card. And I'm going to go ahead and adhere this other photo of my son in the record shop to one of the grid cards. And this other grid card, I'm also going to adhere the photograph of my son and his friend eating their Oreo ice cream shakes or drinking. I don't know. Do you eat? Do you drink a shake? And I've got, let's see, this photograph of my son in front of the mural. I want to adhere that down, but I'm not convinced that this grid card is the right choice, but nah, I'm going to go for it anyway, and it's done. Is it? Is it? I need to move it over a bit. Okay. And there we go. So now just straightening out the cards. And I feel like because I placed that photo to the far right of the card, that the left is a little bit sad and empty. So I'm going to place a red printable just to the left to kind of fill out that 3x4 card. I'm going to call that done for now. Next up, adhering down a few other photographs. All right, stepping back, kind of checking where I am. And I'm going to move forward. I'm going back in. And another photograph. We took the boys to the barbershop before we headed to the city. I usually do not go with the fellas when they go to the barbershop. That is a male tradition. My husband and the boys go. They do their thing. They have dad time. And I'm Not that I'm not invited, I just don't go because they need to have their dad time. But since we knew we were going to head directly from the barbershop to the city, no need for my husband to circle back around to pick me up from the house. So I hung out, and of course, since I was there, I took photographs. He never remembers to take photographs when they're at the barbershop normally, so I took it as an opportunity. All right, I went ahead and trimmed another one of those Silver Lake printable cards. I just really love the different designs of the cards this month. Really, really fun and funky. So you saw that I did one of my tricks of when I find a whole 3x4 card design too busy, I cut it in half and adhere it to a white card to kind of tone it down just a bit. And then in this case, I think that that worked with the black bubbles and then attach the photograph on top. So I'm going to pull out this chipboard set from Ali Edwards. I have been using it all year long, probably one of my fave sets from her. Just got all these little nice words that just seem to work so well with my life. And so I'm going to stick down a few of these chipboard elements right on top of those Scraptastic printables, which I think adds just the right amount of texture. And those cards are done. I have a few of these letter phrases from Ali Edwards, and I'm going to pop a few of those on a couple of the cards as well. And let's see, next up, one of these, what do you call these? Kind of the bubble stickers as well, and that's going to work on a couple other photos. And then I decide that after all of that thinking and work, I still didn't like the card that I attached this photograph to. And so then I'm like, well, maybe I just want to use a white card. But nah, why do that? Why not just go all in? So I'm going to trim another one of these Silver Lake Lodge cards, this one with the blue bubbles and a light pink background. Yeah, when you go funky, you got to go all the way funkylicious or not at all. So there we go. I'm going to attach half of that blue dot card to a white card, toning it down just a bit. Although I don't know how much you can tone down that blue bubble card, but it seems to pair up perfectly with the mural on the back of background of that photograph. And I'm feeling pretty good about that at this point. Sorry the camera cut out, but I have these large Mombi number stickers. I picked them up at Michael's on clearance and thought, since this is a crazy layout, why not use a large 26 for the week number? I'm going to go all in. Also attaching Go to the top of that Cityscape 3x4 card and the Hi to the bottom blue bubble card, just to add a little bit of interest. And then a few of these puffy sticker stars. That's from an old Scraptastic kit to that 3x4 card. And we are close to done at this point. It is a really wild and crazy layout this week, but I really had a lot of fun playing around here and just being free, not to stress too much and overthink it or try to have any cohesive color palette. That's a little bit different for me, but it was a blast. And so last step is to just put the dates on the bottom of my date card, and we are done. Thank you, thank you, thank you so much for watching, my friends. Big hugs to you, and I hope you take some time to create a layout that's just a little bit outside of your comfort zone. All right, until next time, hugs!